Welcome to my channel, Nigerian Trending News, where you get latest updates on politics and trending news around the country. Today, we want to see what this ADC shifting, what did he say about Peter Obi? Please, let's listen and let us learn something about what this man said about ADC.
Position realignment after two prominent figures announced their defection to a new political platform ahead of next year's presidential election. The move by Peter Obi and Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso to the Nigerian Democratic Congress NDC comes only months after both former presidential candidates joined a broader opposition coalition, the African Democratic Congress ADC. Their defection raises fresh doubts about whether Nigeria's fragmented opposition can sustain a coordinated challenge to the ruling All Progressives Congress.
To a party that has no faction.
Yes, sir.
NDC. To a party that has no litigation whatsoever. I also want to welcome you to a party that does not know what is called status quo anti-balloon.
On our ideology, our blueprint, and all what we believe in, especially my humble self and His Excellency Peter Obi. And we realize we are all on the same page.
Please, let there be no litigation. Party members, please don't go to court. We are not lawyers. Those of us who are lawyers want it to be good practitioners. What we want is party.
The leadership crisis within the African Democratic Congress, ADC, has also taken a new turn as a federal high court in Abuja adjourned indefinitely a suit challenging the party's current leadership structure led by former Senate President David Mark. The court, presided over by Justice Emeka Nwite, suspended proceedings after being informed that the request had been made to the Chief Judge for reassignment of the case. The suit, which questions the legality of the party's leadership emergence, is part of a wider internal dispute that has continued to generate tension within the ADC. The matter will now remain on hold, pending administrative direction from the judiciary and further filings by the parties involved. Former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan has moved to also challenge a suit filed by lawyer John Mary Jidobi seeking to bar him from contesting the 2027 presidential election. The matter is before the Federal High Court in Abuja. Jonathan's legal team told the court that they have filed a conditional appearance alongside a preliminary objection, counter affidavit, and written address urging the dismissal of the suit. They argued the issue of his eligibility had already been settled by the Court of Appeal and said the action was only brought to their attention through media reports. Justice Peter Lifu has adjourned the case to May 11, 2028. I'm now being joined by Laden Salio, former Director General, Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN, to analyze the latest political developments, including the opposition realignment involving Peter Obi and Rabiu Kwankwaso, the ongoing leadership crisis within the African Democratic Congress, now stored in court, and President Goodluck Jonathan's legal challenge against a suit that bars him from contesting the 2027 presidential election. Welcome to the program, Dr. Laden Salio. Glad to have you on Disney Live, the Sunday Talk Show.
Thank you.
Okay, let's look at
Thank you for the privilege, Dr. Abati.
Yes, let's look at the issues, one after the other. Now the opposition appears to be fragmented. on all fronts. We've seen the exodus from the ADC, the African Democratic Congress was said to have been, this is a coalition that will challenge President Tinubu, but that coalition ran into a collision. Everybody, most of them, ran into NDC. Now, the National Democratic Congress is also looking like it's troubled. A certain Dr. Umar Ado is contesting its legitimacy, the validity of that party's registration. Now, what do you make of all of this? Meanwhile, the NDC says there's no shaking. We have been properly registered. So says the national leader of the party, the NDC. I know that you are still in the ADC. I don't know whether in the last 24 hours you moved, but can you just comment on this development? You know, people moving here and there within the opposition.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much, Dr. Abati. For the records, I'm still a staunch and irrevocable member of the African Democratic Congress. And to the issues of the day and to your question, Nigerians had confidence in, the amalgamation, if you like, the aggregation of all opposition parties and all opposition movements, the Obedience and the Kwankwaso movement, and before them, millions of people who believe that our democracy will thrive when you have, a very strong and virile opposition. And so when they were with the ADC, the opposition was seen generally by Nigerians as that platform that will rekindle hope in democracy and provide an alternative route for a government come 2027. Unfortunately, the opposition is, like you did say at the opening of your opening remarks, is currently, if you like, fragmented by largely political forces and politicians at the highest level with vaulting and what I will also call somersaulting ambitions. They tend to believe that they are in the opposition in the first place to actualize their own personal ambitions and to see through their own personal dreams, as opposed to having an opposition that will provide, that will inspire Nigerians to rise and believe that our democracy can work when a government is operating within the norms and context of civil and civilized democracy. It will be applauded. Once the same citizens believe that the government or a party in charge is not performing to their own expectations, that party and the government can be voted out. But you can only achieve that, Dr. Abati, if you have a house that is intact and together, that is focused, that is dogged, and inspired by a common ideal and a common dream to ensure that, they succeed. A house divided against itself will not stand. If I may borrow, a word from Chinua Achebe, when things fall apart, the center cannot hold. So here we are. But I believe that hope is not all lost, because the African Democratic Congress still provides a virile platform for an opposition that will not only checkmate the present state of misgovernance that we have, but will provide an alternative platform for Nigerians to coalesce, to support, and to work with towards the actualization of our dream of having a government that will replace the APC in 2027. I still believe that the ADC is the most credible, the most organized, and the most virile platform that will actualize that dream for Nigerian opposition.
Okay. But how can the ADC be so described as you have just done, when the ADC itself is in a dilemma? I mean, a federal high court, I think the Court of Justice Peter Lifo, as we pointed out, has just said, look, matters relating to the validity, authenticity, legality, or whatever of the David Mark-led leadership in the ADC has now been adjourned sine die. Sine die means until when God decides.
Indefinitely.
Yeah. So how is the ADC going to be part of this process? And there's no way you can dictate to the court of law. Isn't that even a bigger problem for the ADC rather than you worrying about what they do in the NDC?
No, to be honest with you, Dr. Abati, we're not, we're concerned, we're not bothered. We're not bothered because, first of all, when you look at the judgment of the Supreme Court, all the 5 judges gave a unanimous decision endorsing the leadership of Senator David Mark and Rauf Aregbesola and his executives. And so they set aside the much talked about status quo antebellum. And I think what the Supreme Court did was to ask the lower court to dignify itself by doing the needful. That is to say, we don't want to issue a public rebuke on you at the lower court. Go and sort this problem quickly so that you can do it in an accelerated manner. And then the same person that went to the court in the first place, Nafi Ogombe, went back to the same courts to now say that, he is not in agreement with the judge, that, he wants to have another judge to preside over the case. And the judiciary, our own courts are not political shopping malls where, a politician will decide on, what item or items to pick on the shelf or who can preside over their cases. That tells you the kind of quality and the kind of person we are dealing with in the first place. And so in our view as a party, the fact that the matter has been adjourned sine die, you are a lawyer, I'm not, indefinitely means, we are good to go. Indefinitely is indefinitely. But then the process and activities and operations of the ADC will continue as normal because we are endorsed by the Independent National Electoral Commission. We are back on their portal. And the Supreme Court's judgment, the 5 judges that unanimously set aside, status quo antebellum, I think the two put together have given us a clear roadmap, a clear line of sight to continue our activities uninhibited rather. And the fact that, this, the issue of saying it's been adjourned sine die does not necessarily stop the party from continue on its own legitimate activities as an entity. So we are very comfortable with, we would have loved, a straight out judgment to rest the matter once and for all. And I think it's a matter of time, not when, but how soon. Okay. And we are confident that this will play out in our favor, Dr. Abati. Okay,
but when the Court of Appeal on March 12 says that the David Mark-led group should go back to the Court of First Instance, that has said, we are on motion on notice, you should come back and address this matter. And then the David Mark-led group went to the Court of Appeal. And then the Court of Appeal on March 12 then said, no, you have to go back there. In the judgment given by the Supreme Court also said, go back to the originating summons. And now, having gone back there, the court now says, no, just wait until we are ready for you. And then the court says, oh, sine die, that's when we will come back to you. That uncertainty, don't you think is the biggest threat to the prospects of the African Democratic Congress?
No, it's not a setback, Dr. Abati. Uncertainty does not necessarily mean we are at the, at the roadblock or at the end of the road. It means what it is, that the courts will decide eventually, and the court will decide at a time of its own choosing. And like I said, we are comfortable with the position of the court. We respect the law. We are law-abiding. And the majesty of the democratic, the judicial process is upon us, and we cannot challenge the position of the judge. What we hope and pray is that when eventually this matter is done and dusted with, the clowns and the plebeians and their paymasters and all those who are remotely connected with supporting Nephew Gombe will be put to shame. However long this judgment or this decision will take, we believe in the ADC. We are upbeat that it will come out eventually in our favor. Why? Because, like I did say at the beginning of this program, the Supreme Court has laid, literally the groundwork for that to happen. We believe that they didn't want to, the Supreme Court didn't want to come out outrightly and issue a judicial rebuke to the court downstairs, if I would use that language. But we wait and see. The idea of sine die it cannot be translated in any different form more than indefinitely. And so we'll wait for the judgment, the outcome, and the decision of the courts whenever they call the two parties. Then we'll be there, and then we meet in court and we await the judgment. It is not going to disrupt our own activity, Dr. Abati. You can see that our presidential aspirants and aspirants at all levels, governorship, senatorial, House of Representatives, state assemblies, is more than impressive the way and manner, people still believe in the ADC and are trooping in daily. And the exit of Obi and Kwankwaso, I must add, will not hurt the party. Yes, they came in and they left as individuals with a few people, but they probably I can tell you almost certainly they've left more than half of their followers within the ADC, and people are not talking about it.
Well, okay, Dr. Salio, you say that, but what we know is that most members of the National Assembly, over 70 of them in particular, have defected in the House of Reps and the National Assembly to this new formation, the NDC. So are you saying that the NDC doesn't pose a threat? The NDC, in fact, in the last 48 hours, had just decided that it's going to zone its presidential ticket to the south. And Dr. Rabiu Kwankwaso says, yes, that is the right thing to do. Don't you think that that's a masterstroke to wrong foot the ADC and to make the ADC irrelevant in this emerging game?
Okay, I'll come back to Dr. Rabiu Kwankwaso in a moment, but let me talk about the members of the National Assembly that defected to the NDC. The National Assembly, as we speak today, is a toothless bulldog. It's a willing tool in the hands of, the government. And we've never seen a National Assembly that has been so scandalously, rated in the lowest of terms in terms of performance, in terms of integrity, and in terms of, serving the people. The National Assembly as it is today, I can assure you, Dr. Abati, 90% of members of the National Assembly will not return in 2027 because they've lost the confidence of the people. They've lost their own integrity has been taken to shreds by their own attitude to rubber stamping everything the government of the day wanted. And under their watch, they watch the government preside over, the administration of poverty and penury and retrogression in the Nigerian democracy. And so we're not bothered about any member of the National Assembly defecting to the NDC or any other party because their time is up. And as for Rabiu Kwankwaso, look, the gentleman, has a following. But in Kano, he won less than 1 million votes, 997,000 in the presidential election. Across the country, he won 1,400,000 and about 1.5 million. There was no state outside Kano that he got 100,000 votes. You can fact check that. So the whole hype and story about Kwankwaso, with 1.5 million votes, with Atiku's almost 7 million votes, with him in some states getting less than 18,000 votes, in Yobe, getting less than 6,000 votes in the Federal Capital Territory where I'm speaking from. And it's all about, noise and about empty vessels at that makes the most noise. He would have been better off in the ADC, but that he has left the ADC, good riddance. But he's not going to impact on our own performance in 2027, especially in his home state of Kano. So it's all about, the past issues about leadership. Look, when the ADC went and received him in Kano, Senator Siraki Dixon was with him on the stage. Less than 45 days after he got into the ADC, boom, he left. And it's all about political calculations that do not add up. And when he got back, when he decided to jump ship and join the NDC, he went to Kano, and people were telling him, "We will not back you." The kind of crowd that he got when he joined the NDC, the ADC, he didn't get that attention when he jumped ship. So I think the lessons of political history will be taught to Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso in 2027 when he turns around the pages and see that his performance is not as good as people think.
Dr. Salio, two quick things. Now, I raised a point about the decision of the NDC to zone the presidency to the south. Now, your party, the ADC, doesn't look like it has taken a similar decision. Do you see that as a big risk if your party decides, for example, the ADC, to choose a northern candidate? The ADC is now saying, okay, one term or 4 years, a single term proposition. And some people have said, oh, that looks like the NDC is going to do an Obi and Kwankwaso proposal to Nigerians, contract, signing that with Nigerians. How much of a threat does that pose to your party? Or is your party also going to come around and say, okay, we too will choose a southern candidate? Briefly, because I still have 2 more questions.
First of yes. Okay, thank you very much. Look, the Nigerian Constitution provides a level playing field for every Nigerian to seek for any office in the land without hindrance. The idea of zonal permutations and the rotation of power is not in any way reflected in our own constitution. So it is the right of any party to choose the path it wants to go. If other parties choose to have presidential candidates from the southern part of the country, so be it. If the ADC, the African Democratic Congress, decides tomorrow that it will have a presidential candidate from the south, that will be for the ADC to decide. When the ADC decides that it will have a presidential candidate from the north, that equally is within the liberty and the right of the party to do so. And I have had a cause to tell you in previous conversations that I believe that competence, capacity, and capability should dictate who leads Nigeria. And let me say this, as Laden Salio, my own personal opinion. If the ADC should get a presidential candidate, it does not matter what other parties did. I believe the ADC should not follow the bandwagon simply because other parties have done so. Look, the idea that the four-term issue that even Obi and Kwankwaso mooted was from our own strategy book. And so when they left the ADC, they decided to, in their own wishful thinking, think doing so will take the wind out of our sail, and it's not going to fly. I can assure you that the decision of our party with respect to what will play out in 2027 or even at the end of this month to have a presidential candidate will be predicated on, the liberty and the right of our party to choose from whichever part of the country. And we will not be bullied, we will not be encumbered by the way and manner other parties have, joined the bandwagon. I think Nigerians have to be very careful with that.
Okay, Dr. Salio, I'm trying to manage time. I'll just ask you one other question, which is the Jonathan factor. In the past few days, we saw groups, the Coalition for Jonathan, they bring back our Goodluck movement, saying that President Goodluck Jonathan is the best deal for Nigeria. And he told them, okay, I will consult, but you people go and get your PVCs and make sure that you are patriotic, give peace a chance, because we have just this country. He spoke like a statesman. But the following day, we saw also a case in court where it was being said that, look, there are determined cases, particularly from the Federal High Court of Bayelsa, that says that, look, the adjustment in section 137 sub 3 of the 1999 Constitution, section 182 sub 3 of the same Constitution applying to state governors will not apply to President Jonathan because it will be retroactive in effect, retrospective in effect. But the President Goodluck Jonathan says, well, he has had the people and, we'll see how it works out. Isn't that a bigger threat to your party and to other parties to have President Jonathan on the ballot? Now that some people say they just want 4 years, and there are interested parties from the north that say, well, Jonathan may be the best deal. He will just do 4 years and he will leave and is sellable to Nigerians. Where does that work out, and how does that relate to the fact that we have an incumbent president?
The whole thing, Dr. Abati, Nigerians missed a chance to upgrade democracy, to perfect our own political culture in the year 2023. And I have said it in my previous conversations with you. when President Jonathan did 2 years of Eradua's, tenure, and then he won 4 years, and he had 4 years to go.
No, he did 1 year. 1 year.
For whatever reasons.
Yaradua.
He did
1 year.
Of Eradua. Okay, and then he did another 4 years, right?
Yes.
Okay. He was sitting as an incumbent president. There was nothing wrong with President Jonathan. He was, as you know, he's a perfect gentleman. And he did his best. He believed in this project Nigeria. And he was rejected. And I still ask myself, and Nigerians keep asking, why did we reject Jonathan? Why was Jonathan rejected in 2023? And then the same people are coming back to pop him up again to say he should contest in the year 2027. And that tells you the kind of contradiction that is within our own polity. It is a polity, we practice politics based on sentiments, based on sectionalism, geopolitical alignments or realignments, and deep-seated interests that are contradictory to the norms and values of a nation that is trying to perfect democracy. We should have allowed Jonathan to continue and finish 4 years. And then we are now with a government that is not performing even close to 1/4 of what Jonathan did when he was in power. And so, I always believe, I said it then and I will say it now, Nigeria missed a chance to have consistent, if you like, 8 years in a row, like they did with Obasanjo, like they did with Buhari, but they failed to do with Jonathan. And it is the same group that now brought Jonathan, that took out Jonathan, that is now bringing hunger and poverty and all manner of, bad governance that we've not seen in this country since our creation as a nation. And so what we are saying is that this system is unsustainable. It cannot guarantee the safety, security, welfare, and well-being of Nigerians and the development of the country. As for President Jonathan, my guess, and that's my take, is that he's not going to contest. He's a smart person. He knew what they did to him. He understood and still understands the game of politics, the theory, the practice, the intrigues, the venality, the corruption, and all the negativities that goes with it. He will not contest. He will be very smart in telling Nigerians and those who are calling him to contest that you've missed a chance in me in 2023. Go and solve your problems yourself.
Well, on that note, I will have asked you another question, whether that's supposed to be a prediction or a threat or, an analytical point. But we can leave it at this point. And I would like to thank you very much, for your observations, your insights, and for agreeing to be on this program.
So what's your thought, my country people, about what this man said? Drop your comment in the comment section. Like this video, share with your friend, and make sure you subscribe to this channel, Nigerian Trending Now, so that you can get future updates. God bless you.